All right, so we're gonna pick up where we left off. I did float, so now over to clear. This is just demonstrating float, and so like we've got, you know, right here how it's doing, you know, float right. But now if we want to add in clear, so our things floating to the right over here, but we want, like, let's add in, I don't know, paragraphs. Clear, and we'll just choose both. So then come here. So now it's like, nope, not gonna just listen to your float and go up there. I'm gonna clear that, and so there you go. There's how you can clear. Let's go back to how it was. So there's that. All right, so normally if we're creating a div, so I think we've got our, what divs do we have here? Got these divs, right? And if we go ahead and create, you know, a space for that, so like let's add this div, like let's make it more stuff. Oops. Right. So if on this first div, we go ahead and gave it a height and width. Actually, let's just get, we'll leave it. Sure. So if we gave this first div a height pixels, width, (200) pixels. And we had it float to the left. I'm just going to actually get rid of this. Let's say we had this float left as well. Right, so since it's, you know, only, you know, 200 pixels height and width, you know, it's only going to go that far. It's going to stay in its lane before going down to the next line. of its width, since we've got, you know, it floating left. And then this one, you know, it's, since it's also floating left, it's like, all right, well, I'm just gonna come up, I'm gonna, you know, float along here and just go the relative, I'm not gonna go to a new line, because like if we didn't have it float left, so like this stuff is right here is now going to a new line, because that's not floating. It's like, oh no, you get your own line there. Like this one is still floating left, but oops, why is that not there? This one's still floating left, so this is just coming up to this line because this one's floating here, so it's just coming along. But now that we've got them both floating, so like since it's floating here, then this element, which we haven't done any style to this, like this here is some text, you know, it's just like, okay, well, that's just floating along, so I'm just gonna start a line right there. Anyway, so but now we're talking about overflow, right? So that's how you know it'd work normal. But now if it, oh, I guess I should have added more text. So like right now it doesn't have anything set for overflow. So like if we add more text to this, like, all right, hold on, let's add a border so we can see this more clearly. Order style. We'll make it solid. All right, so here, let's make it so we can see this clear. Okay, 200's too big. Let's do like 50. Oh, change the wrong thing. Change the width, meant to change the height. All right, so, and then let's add some more text. All right, so even though the div element, it ran out of room for it, it's naturally going to overflow, right? And just overflow into the next thing without anything set for it, right? But if we set it to scroll, if we give it an overflow property and set it to scroll, now, if you still want to see that stuff there, you just scroll down and see the rest, but it's not, you know, overflowing into the next thing, right? So there's scroll, and if you do overflow hidden, then any extra text is just screwed. It's like, well, we can't scroll. Yeah, there's more text there, but it's hidden. So that's your how you control your overflow. And like I said, it's just gonna, and like if we didn't have overflow, then it's just gonna naturally overflow. So Z index. Z index, once it gets going, it's going to be good for pictures. But all right. So we've been dealing with like X and Y stuff, right? So far, we've been dealing with, left, right, X, X, Y. If you're thinking of like geometry, right? Z index is, if you get into like geometry, it's like making it 3D, right? So you're going left and right, up and down, your X and Y, right? But now we're adding like another layer, we're adding, making things 3D. So basically putting stuff on top of it, on top of each other. So, well, I'll just go ahead and copy all this. Let's get rid of some of this. So, let's get rid of this stuff too. Or actually, I'll just put it after. All right, so as you can see, like, all right, it's creating a, so it's doing a background color, right? It's just doing some, margin. It's creating a size for your box, like a height and width. And then it's just setting the color of the font to, to white, right? So for your blue one, and then for your red one, then it's throwing that, on top, but it's doing your margin top and margin left at negative 50 and whatnot. But hold on. But now if we get into, so now let's go ahead and add the Z index. So like right now, this one's on top, right? Because it just is. But if we go ahead and change it up and we make the Z index for blue, Z index 3, Z index 2. So now blue has a higher oh, are they both relative? Oh, this one's not relative. So the blue now has a higher Z index. So if you're picturing it kind of like 3D, right? And we're looking at a 3D angle, like okay, like so here's like down under my phone, let's just pretend is like you know, Z index of 1, you know, my phone Z index of 2, and then, you know, Z index of 3. And like, you know, my phone, here's our, you know, our X and Y, right? But then we're dealing with 3D. So, you know, the higher the Z index, if you're looking at it, and my hand right now is like at a 3 Z index, right? You know, my hand is going to be covering up on top, right? Because it's just a higher Z index for like in the 3D, you know, world, right? But you do have to have, it does have to be positioned. So like you have to have like position relative or whatever. So you have to have that set for everything that you're interacting with. But then at that point, then you can use Z index. So that's the Z index. Oh, and that's the last thing. So that is, oh, and another thing too, you can go like negative with Z index. I didn't mention that, but like you could go like -1, you know, to put something below like the natural flow of stuff, and like you can do so you could do that too, but or you could just specify like, you know, Z index 2, Z index 3, whatnot, for like what you want on top from, and it's, you know, what you're looking at it from a 3D angle. So like the higher the number, you know, the more it's going to be on top. So but yeah, that's the end of the positioning section. So I'll end this video and then we'll go to CSS3 next. All right.